Leading Landco Pacific Corporation is the pioneer developer in sustainable leisure landscapes in the Philippines for more than 30 years. Following Metro Pacific Investments Corp's acquisition in 2022, Landco Pacific is now part of a bigger ecosystem, enhancing Philippine tourism through investments in hotel, accommodations, leisure lifestyle experiences, and infrastructure. With us now on Thought Leaders, please welcome President and CEO of Landco Pacific Corporation and Millennial Resorts Corporation, Erickson Manzano. So good to have you here with us, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Ms. Cathy, for having me.
And it's quite
an honor.
timely that
Yeah.
we meet and
Yeah.
also talk about tourism as the inaugural Philippine Tourism Hotel Investment Summit just wrapped up in June. There's been a lot of optimism all around. I wanted to know what's on the ground. What really is happening? Is it really as phenomenal as a tourism department would have it when it comes to tourism?
Okay, so Ms. Cathy, I can really only talk about our own personal experience. Although, if you look at the industry, yeah, things are really picking up. But if you look at the Philippines really in general, like for example, pre-COVID, I think we maxed out at 7 million international visitors. No? Back then and even now, I think we might hit that 7 million again probably next year. No? But if you compare us to our Southeast Asian neighbors, we are so far off now. So the good thing about it is that the potential for growth is really there. So yeah, so I share that optimism.
But why is it always a potential? I mean, it's always like, okay, we're hitting these numbers, 7.7 million, wonderful numbers post-COVID. One might think we're coming from a low base. And then you have the tourism secretary saying, we still need to do more because we need to catch up. Our Southeast Asian neighbors are doing much better. What do you think is the problem?
Well, frankly, if you compare our infrastructure now, we're really quite behind. And that's quite unfortunate because, I've been around actually, Ms. Cathy. I'm very well traveled. I've been to 71 countries. I've been to Antarctica, but I've been to all 7 continents. So I'm quite well traveled. And if I compare in Philippines, and not because I'm Filipino, no, the natural beauty we have, the beaches we have, it is world class. No? We have a world class in terms of natural resources, the leisure, the beach, the mountains. It is fantastic. So it's quite unfortunate that we're lagging behind. Okay, well, I think my honest answer is we need to pick up on the infrastructure. Okay, we have 7,100 islands. It's quite difficult to get to them, right? Especially if you look at the individual islands. They are beautiful. Now, I think we're blessed with white sand, clear water, but it's so difficult to get around it. So I think that's really one of the main culprits. Like for example, okay, you go to Bali, and Bali is not really a city. That's a major tourist destination, but it's not city. It's not Jakarta. I mean, look at their airport, and it's much nicer than the airports we have here. So it's easy to get there. It's more convenient. It's more easy to go around Indonesia and Malaysia, Vietnam. So I think we need to catch up in terms of infrastructure.
So infrastructure or the lack thereof. I mean, you've been in the business for 30 years and a part of that, hotels and resorts. To what extent did infrastructure or has infrastructure held you back from further growth and what you're seeing now as pretty phenomenal from your end as a leisure lifestyle resort?
Okay, again, the infrastructure really helps us if it's easy to get to you. That's really how it helps. If it's easy to get to you. Now, although I've seen the government, they're also doing some marketing us, but we've never really hit that level of, like, for example, Malaysia, truly Asia. We have this. It's more fun in the Philippines, which my personal opinion was a nice tagline. I'm wondering why we stopped it, but I think even promoting the country, we need to improve, and also the infrastructure we need to catch up. I think it's really that because natural beauty, we have that. The customer service orientation of our people, we have that. We don't lack for competent workforce. So it's really the development, the infrastructure. I think that's what's lacking.
Well, let's get into the data, the metrics.
Mm-hmm.
The tourism department and the government have given out a couple of them. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. Highest tourism growth in 24 years. That's according to tourism department, and also contributing 8.6% of
Mm-hmm.
GDP
Yeah.
last year. So there's a big component there where it's contributed to jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and this is really important for
Yeah.
an economy that's also based on the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
So how did this all show up in your own developments, in your portfolio of developments, when it comes to, say, maybe gross operating profit?
Well, okay. So during the pandemic, obviously, we were closed back then. Okay, but when we opened, and let me be frank now, and again, it might be different for other institutions, other companies, but this is how we experience it now. Okay, in terms of like, for example, profitability, I'd tell you, comparing a hotel operation to a real estate development operation, it is quite far. Meaning, the profits that you get from hotel operations, it's much lower than what you would get in, for example, selling condominiums or selling property. It is lower. Okay, so what's so great about hospitality? Why do we need to do it? First, no, I'm quite new in this hospitality. Actually, I just started my very first experience in hospitality was really 2018. No? We formed our own hotel operation, which is Millennium Resorts, no? From the ground up. What I love about it, during our weekly meetings, the first in my agenda is to go through all of the reviews, no? Online reviews, and you would see the joy that we give the families. No? It is, I love this business now. You are in the business of making people happy. No, you're in the business of giving families memories. No? So I love this business. You get to employ people. No? One of the things I'm proud of is that where we're located is that, at least 70% of our workforce come from the surrounding area, because that's what we wanted. That, we don't want to be the only, rich entity there. No, we want the community surrounding us to also be uplifted. No? So that's what I love about the hospitality business. But frankly, in terms of profits, it doesn't compare to real estate development. Yeah. So that's my personal experience. And
So
even,
it hasn't
yeah.
really bounced back from pre-pandemic levels.
Oh yeah.
Or has it bounced back
Yes.
in the pandemic years, when a lot of millennials or even Gen Z considered to work and stay in your condo hotels and do their business there as the whole world was shut down?
No, okay. During the pandemic itself, we were closed. No? Actually, that was 2020 was a losing year. Even 2021, no, it was a losing year for the hotel operations.
But for the condo hotel, did that kind of continue on?
Actually, we
its
just
business.
Yeah, as a business, it continued on. No? All right. During the pandemic, also, 2020 was in our entire history was our biggest loss. No? 2020 was our biggest loss, but we kind of bounced back significantly in 2021. We finished 2021 at 70% level in terms of revenue, so to 2019. No? Now, in terms of hospitality, to be honest, no, we have not reached 2019 levels yet, but we are at 90% there. So you could see that it took a couple of years to get back to at least the 2019 levels. No? And the projection is really, it's still growing. No? So that's.
So what kept you going during those intervening years when we had all the lockdowns? What pushed the business further? And did you keep the jobs? You didn't let go of jobs, or did you add jobs during those years?
Okay, during 2020, I thought, thinking back then, 3 months, I thought that was impossibly long already. I think none of us expected it to last almost 2 years now. I remember back then, March 2020, come April, I sent an email to all of the employees. No? I mean, unless for performance reasons, nobody will lose their jobs. So I kind of appeased So what we did was really save on costs. No? Again, we lost during that year, but the point then was really to survive, and we've survived it. No? And things have been picking up. No? Actually, last year, 2023, that was our highest net income in our entire history going back to 1990. So we've recovered. And, I'm very proud to say nobody lost their job when during the pandemic.
So are
in
you hiring
Landco.
more, considering that you're going to be expecting a record-breaking year in 2025?
Yes, we will be hiring more because we have significant projects in the pipeline, which we're very excited about.
Those projects within Batangas area, or are you considering the rest of the country?
The rest of the country. So we have booked for projects in Batangas, no? But we've gotten approval from the MPIC board. We'll be launching a project in Baguio this year, which we're very excited about. We're also looking at Siargao. We're in the closing stages of and designing the project there. So we'll be our hope really is to be wherever it's beautiful in the Philippines. So for example, if you have a foreigner friend and you'd be proud to say, Boracay or Siargao, you'd be proud to say it's beautiful there. We want to be there. That's really our vision for Landco and Millennial Resorts. Well, basically the pipeline projects. No? Again, we're if not late this year, early next year, we're launching the project in Baguio. We're very excited about it. We would like to build a legacy and iconic development in Baguio. And again, we're looking at Siargao, which is that one I'm very excited about because if you've been to Siargao, it's a young valley. Funny thing, I was having dinner in a restaurant. There were like a dozen tables, so we were like the only locals there. No, they were like all Europeans and Americans who were there. So it's a very young valley. So we're quite excited to be there. And these pipeline projects, I think, is what's going to give us our breakout year next year.
Are you taking some foreign investors? I mean, what's the plan there? Or are you fully funding it with the help of Metro Pacific?
Well, yeah. Funny thing, Ms. Cathy, somebody asked me this question. So what was the difference before and after MPIC acquired us? It's money. Before, there was a time that we were like kind of hand to mouth. But now, it really pays to have rich parents. So it helps with the funding. And again, as I mentioned earlier, in the MVP group, nothing really happens without MVP's blessing. So these projects that we've lined up, we've gotten the proper approvals. So if you can see, even Boss believes in it, in helping building the tourism industry in the Philippines. He believes in it. So, yeah.
It's quite unique that you say wherever it's beautiful, because anybody would want to have that. But then now that you've got MPIC on board, or MPIC's got you on board, then you do have that infrastructure component that we sorely lack.
Yeah.
So is the strategy going towards where the roads had been built by MPIC, given that it's got a tollways division, or is it where MPIC will go next? What's the sort of strategy that goes between a conglomerate that is now involved also in tourism?
Yeah. Okay. So as a strategy, Landco and Millennial Resorts, we've really decided to focus on leisure properties. That's really it. Now, one of the strategies before was really go where MPIC is going to build the roads. But they're mostly going to cities where there are a lot of economic activity. I think first and foremost, and I've experienced this even in our projects, for example, you sell condominiums or property. The location is 50% of the battle. Now, for example, if you have a beautiful beach, that's half your sales effort. The location has to be nice. So I think the beauty of the place dictates where we will locate. First and foremost, and on an opportunistic level, where MPIC builds roads. But I wanted to share, Ms. Cathy.
So it's sort of an art form then. There's hard and fast rules to find the next nice place to build, and also for where the roads will go next.
Yes. And okay, in terms of for example, Boracay is beautiful. Boracay is beautiful. But I feel like we're kind of late for the prom when it comes to Boracay. The prices have really appreciated so much that if we came in there, bought land at these prices, we're not going to make I don't think we're even going to make the cost of the land. We're not going to get it back. So it's really an opportunistic thing. And right, Ms. Cathy, it is really an art form. Where you buy land, what you develop, it is really an art form. There's no hard and fast rule how to do it. Yeah.
Well, now that you mentioned Boracay, and there's a lot of sustainability of a conversation around that, given that, yes, it's been shut a couple of years back. We learned from that, and we've learned how beautiful it had become when it reopened. You're also very big on sustainability, specifically for Millennial Resorts. Tell us about your sustainability efforts within the developments that you now head up, specifically for Club La Ia and also for Casobe.
Okay.
Because you also have Punta Fuego,
Yes.
but that started up with no sustainability built in. So
Yes.
what's the sort of difference that you now take part in when you take leadership in sustainability initiatives?
Okay. So first, Ms. Cathy, maybe for your audience, let me explain what sustainability is, so that we're basically all on the same page. Now, sustainability is basically getting what you need without letting future generations sacrifice for what they need. To put it in layman's terms, so imagine, Ms. Cathy, for example, Christmas reunion, your family. You're about to eat your Noche Buena, but your nephews and nieces and probably the grandchildren of your relatives, they're not there yet. Save some for them. They're not here yet. Save some for them. So really, sustainability is that. Get what you need, but don't get it from future generations. They have to be able to get what they need also. So just get what you need, all right? So that's really sustainability. Now, what we do in Landco and Millennium Resorts, and I'm proud to say that we've been doing this before all of these sustainability awards came about. I joined Landco in 2015, and we've been doing it since that time. For example, water. In both Laia and Casobe in Calatagan, it's deep well. So we know water is a problem. So what we did is that development, Casobe and Club Laia, it is double piped. Meaning, I have a pipe for potable water and I put in a separate pipe so that when the used water goes to the STP, I recycle it and I use it to flush toilets.
Plant.
Yes,
okay.
To the sewage treatment plant. I recycle it and I pipe it back to use for irrigation and for flushing of the toilets. Now, to give you an idea, in a common household, maybe half of your water use is really just flushing your toilets. That's really half your water use. So can you imagine using, dozens of gallons just to flush your toilet, using potable water to flush that? So we use recycled water for that. Now, what we're proud of is that to have double piping, literally, you build your water system twice, Because there's this question, why aren't other developers doing it? Why isn't like common practice? You build your water system twice. You have separate pipes, separate pumps, separate cisterns. It's like building it twice. Now, we're in the real estate business, and there is a ceiling to how much you could sell your property. And unfortunately, we in Landco, we really believe this, in sustainability. It's not just lip service. But if you sell, for example, you sell a condominium unit, and then you tell the client, we double pipe the building, we spent more, we're gonna have to price it higher. They don't care. Unfortunately,
So you charge them twice more because you spend twice more for sustainability.
Yeah, no, that's the tricky part, because, for example, you can only price this much. People won't pay a premium for sustainability. They would pay a premium for architecture, for the location, but not for sustainability. We're not there yet, but hopefully we'll get there. So what happens is, where do you get the money to do that? Honestly, you get it from your profits. You take less.
So that eats into your margin.
Yes,
so how much of a percent then does it eat into your margin?
Okay. Funny thing this just happened like a couple of weeks ago because I was looking at one of the projects we're going to launch. It hits you 3% bottom line. So meaning, for every billion that you sell, it hits you by 30 million. For every, if you do that for a building, for every billion. But for example, if you're building, your revenues are like 3 billion. You're talking about 90 million. And if your profits are like just 500 million, that eats into your profits. That is money that you could just pocket and make it profitable. But Landco, we've decided, it was a stance. That would be the last to go. We will do it because the way that Landco builds its property, so we look at the future. We want it 30, 50 years from now, that's still, you're proud of where you live, that it is the right development. We know this data today, so we have to do it today.
But how you're just building your data today. How can you then tell that you're doing just enough for you to make a good profit out of? Or would you be doing a lot more? Would it be better to do a lot more for sustainability and maybe take less profit? Where's the metrics in that kind of a situation?
Okay, so actually right now, for example, for a common project, if we built it the way other developers built it, no? Not really sustainable, no? Let's say, for example, you get like a 20% profit, no? Net margin, no? 20% net margin. You build in the sustainability, instead of 20, you'll get like 15 to 17, no? Okay, you could opt to price higher, but there is a ceiling to how much you could price, no? Again, we haven't caught up to that understanding that it pays to be a sustainable, a sustainable person. So what happens? We kind of fund that from our profits. No? We will take less. So that is a metric. The way we do it is, when we design a condominium, there are 4 stages to the design. You know? Concept, schematic, design development, and then construction documentation. On the 3rd level, design development, we will get a quantity surveyor to find out how much it's going to cost. And then from that cost, we will peg the selling price. But again, for us to keep for example, 20% margin, but this is really the price that we believe the market will accept it, we will just opt to take less a bit, just so we could build it sustainably. And that's why I guess it is expensive to build. That's really the truth. It's expensive to build. So you have to have really, it has to be a conscious decision. There has to be some altruism to it. Frankly,
the conscious decision coming from your clients, who's taken a stab at what you're offering? Well, what kinds of clientele are you attracting with this kind of offering? It's premium, it's sustainable, but it's expensive.
Okay, so we have this, so we're building this condo in Club Laia. I don't know if you could, well, you decide later if you wanted to share this. But basically, we had a really successful launch. On opening night, like we sold over $1 billion in terms of inventory, on opening night for the Spinnaker in Club Laia. And then I asked my sales team, okay, how many of our buyers bought it because it's a sustainable development? 0. Nobody bought it because it's sustainable. So that was my point, Okay, to double pipe that thing, it's about 70 million. I could just pocket that 70 million, and it's profit for Landco, But the decision is, even if they didn't want it, build it, because it's the right thing to do. You have to put it there. You have to be able to save water. And we're not limited to just double piping in water. Like, the decision was to go low E glass, meaning low emissions glass, so that the heat doesn't come in, so that your air conditioning doesn't work as hard. We try to source materials as close as possible, so that in terms of carbon footprint, it's less, so that you source from the area surrounding you. You source from the nearest batching plant, or you create your own. So we've looked at all those things. So it's not just limited to water. So again, it's a conscious decision. And then, as I mentioned, it's expensive. It's expensive to build.
So the main selling factor was still the area, the property itself.
Yes. It's basically the location that is literally beachfront. And a lot of them love the architecture.
What do you think is going to change the clientele's minds about, buying something not just because of the beachfront, because of the location, but because it's sustainable? What needs to change?
Well, it's really the education. Because, for example, if you go to Europe, especially Europe now, and even the US and Europe, but especially Europe, if you go there, most of the people wouldn't even look at your product if you weren't a sustainable company. They want you to be responsible. They keep you honest. In the US, it's also like that a bit. Here in the Philippines, I'm sure you could also say, it's not like that. They're not going to choose you over a nicer building because you're sustainable. So we're not at that level yet.
But you have been recognized. The latest wins came from Southeast Asia for the Asia Pacific Property Awards, Best Sustainable Residential Development with 5 stars, and winner for condo development. And this is the reasons behind the ones that you specified in detail.
Yes.
That kind of sustainability that went into that. I'm just wondering where government support is coming in, or maybe the lack thereof. I mean, are you getting any government support from these initiatives on sustainability, as they're also promoting sustainability as a very big part of tourism development?
Yes. Ms. Cathy, right now, honestly, we haven't gotten any support for the sustainable. We do it because we honestly believe it's the right thing to do. We wanted to create a legacy that we are a responsible developer. So, yeah, but if there is government support, we'd love it. We'd take it anytime. So,
Well,
yeah.
your counterparts and your peers in the industry have
Mhm.
spoken up. In the recent Philippine Hotel Investment Outlook survey, which came out during the inaugural summit, they urged government to increase incentives for sustainability
Mm.
initiatives, helping integrate environmental stewardship
Mhm.
into operations.
Yeah.
How much of a help will that be?
That's a big help. Like, for example, as I mentioned earlier, no, hotel operations, especially hotel operations, the margins are quite thin for hotels. In development, it's higher. But yeah, given what we're doing, and again, I mentioned it's expensive, we would appreciate any incentive we could get. I mean, anything help. Any peso would help. So we'd appreciate the incentives from the government. Like for example, in Europe, they already have these incentives. Like if you're a sustainable developer, you get better rates from banks. No? I believe that's mandated by the government. So I'd appreciate something like that. I think every developer would appreciate something like that.
Or maybe a financing facility, a
Yes.
rebate, or a tax
Yes.
break as a result of the sustainable
Yes.
investment.
Yes.
All these will help.
Yes, definitely. And okay, I think why we're behind, no, why the mentality is not like the Europe and the US, no, it's really more an education, no. Just watch TV or YouTube, the local programs. Nobody ever talks about it. It's not taught in schools. So in terms of education, we are not very well educated in terms of sustainability, and I think that's where we lack. No, that's why the awareness is not as widespread in versus Europe and the US, and that would help. No, because again, again, this is again, sustainability is that your children, your grandchildren are not here yet. No, they're still coming. You want a beautiful world for them to live in, no? And that's why we do it. No? Actually, that's why we do it for the people who aren't here yet, no? For our loved ones who aren't here yet.
But could the pushback also come from the Gen Z,
Mhm.
from the millennials themselves who do travel
Mhm.
and think about the environmental fees
Mhm.
that they have to collect? The studies do show that they
Mhm.
don't mind. They
Yes.
don't mind spending for these environmental fees that that you have to pay for when you go into Boracay,
Mhm.
but they do mind
Mhm.
the chaotic lines and queues that they have to face
Mhm.
in order to pay those
Yeah.
fees. It's quite cumbersome.
Yeah.
So
It
what
is.
sort of a solution would you recommend?
Okay. So firstly, no, well, true, and I'm glad you mentioned that. No. This younger generation, they're more into it, which is a good thing. No? All right. Now, in terms of the hospitality, which is something they could afford, no, that is fantastic. No, that would really help, and that would help push more hotels to be sustainable in their operations. So that's great. Now, in terms of my other business, the real estate, no, frankly, our experience is that if you're a Gen Z, and maybe 100% of our experience is that your parents bought the property for you. I mean, the inflation and that's also a worry. How is this generation going to be able to afford their homes? No? So that's another issue. But yeah, I'm glad that they're
But
more
the parents
aware.
are taking on the inflationary risk, and it's okay for them.
Yeah.
There's geopolitical risk.
Yeah.
There's concern about the peso,
Yeah.
and yet they still buy.
Yes, yes. So in terms of hospitality, because for example, to stay in a hotel, you could afford that, no? But to buy a 12 million peso condo, no, studio, that's in general, that's a bit out of their league as of now. No? That's a whole separate problem that we need to address also. No? But right now, the solution is the parents are buying it for them.
And they don't mind whether it's sustainable of a property or not. Either it's parents or the kids. They're not as aware.
Well, the reality is, it's the parents who are buying, no? And as I said, no, that generation, my generation, the older generation, it is not that important to them yet. So I think we need to educate them more. Funny thing, Miss Cathy, and I'm kind of proud of this in a way, no? But there's also something bad about it. The very first sustainable award we got was from this publication called Pan Finance from the UK. No, all right, that was back in 2021. Back then, we never marketed ourselves as a sustainable developer. No, we just did it. No, again, because we know it was the right thing to do. No, Caso B was under full swing. Club A was under full construction. So we've been doing it even before these awards came about. No? And I guess because I had some awareness about the importance of sustainability, and I got it from education. So I think that's what we need to emphasize also, that if you had a choice, no? And I hope if you had a choice, you would choose a more sustainable development than a non-sustainable one. Yeah.
There's also a mention of the Muslim market. You do have a property in Samal.
Yes.
And it's interesting that the Tourism Secretary also announced the issuance of expanded guidelines for Muslim-friendly accommodation establishments. What impact do you think this might have on your Muslim-based portfolio of investments, especially those in Mindanao?
Yeah. Okay. It depends on the location, but basically, if you're based where the Muslim brothers are based, that would be a big help. No. Of course, you would provide them, places where they could pray, halal food. That would be a big help. No?
How big a market is it?
Well, okay. Frankly, you're looking at Mindanao, no? So, well, probably I'm saying if you compare it to nationwide, 20%, you'd be lucky to get 20%. Just my honest assessment, no? But it would help, no? Any bit would help. Again, no, if we're talking about sustainable tourism and sustainability and hospitality, no, again, no, this business is about giving families memories, no, of making people happy. Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. Anyone who steps in your property, no, it is your job to make them happy. I love, again, no, going back to hospitality. Why do I love it? No? Any person who comes into our property, no, you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what they're going through. They may be happy or they may be going through problems. What any single person who comes into your property, hospitality says, no, I got you. I got you. Diba? Come stay in my property. We'll take care of you. That is that business. That's what I love about it. No?
And that resonates a lot more when you think about the migrant Filipino community.
Yes,
and you've done an inaugural roadshow just about last year.
Yes.
And it was pretty interesting, nice pictures. You wanted to invite them and invest in our country, in their home country.
Yeah.
What kind of a reception did you get from them? And what kind of an approach did they have in their investment decisions? Were they sustainably based? Or were they sort of, I like how this property looks, where it's located.
Yeah.
What experiences did you take from that?
Okay, the reception was very good. We were very happy about that roadshow. Actually, we're doing one again this October, no? So because the last one was successful. Although
so that was in Southern California. You're doing it in other parts of the U.S.
Yeah, we're going to northern Northern California now. No?
It's a bigger market.
Yes, it's a bigger market. Okay. The U.S., they're more aware about sustainability, but my honest answer is they bought it because of the location and the architecture. It's really that, no? And plus, they could afford it. Yeah, because they're earning dollars. But the good thing is that, and I've experienced this also. No? There was a time I lived in Canada, but it was only 6 months. No, as beautiful as it was, no, I kind of miss home. No, this is where you belong. This is where your family is. No? I was quite lonely. Although I was thinking if I had my family there and probably 5 closest friends, it would be okay. But nothing beats living here, no. If you're Filipino, I actually just came back from the U.S. and I couldn't wait to come home, no. And I think that's what most of them feel also. That's why there's such a big market in the U.S. and even abroad. No? If they had a choice, I'm sure most of them would want to come home. So. Yeah, it was a good reception, but I hope...
Has it turned into sales?
Yes,
into keys?
Yes.
How much of a sale did you make on that roadshow?
During that roadshow, I think it was about 400 million. In that 2 weeks, no? We kind of sold 400 million in 2 weeks.
So the sort of clientele that you're seeing now shape up from the post-pandemic era is a combination of maybe locals, migrant Filipinos, and foreigners. I mean, what sort of makeup are we seeing?
Okay, for real estate, for example, for selling condos, and now in our condo, Club La Ia, the Spinnaker, no? The cheapest studio we have there is about 12 million pesos. No? That's the smallest one. Those who are buying are really, basically well-off Americans. No? Now, in terms of the hospitality, uh, our locations, we're located about 2.5 hours from Manila. No? We get a lot of balikbayans also, but not as much as probably those closer to the airport because we're quite far. No? So we really depend on the domestic market. But funny is, that was our very first trip. No, last year was our very first trip to the US. Excuse me. But if you look at our data, about 35-40% of our sales are OFW funded. It's quite interesting, no? And so we were looking at that data. 35-40% it's OFW funded. Might as well go where the money is. You know? That's why we scheduled the trip last year. We're doing it again this year. No? Again, no. The dollar's strong. You're talking to Filipinos, and I think it's a good law. I like it that only Filipinos can buy land. I like it. I hope that doesn't change. So it's a nice experience to go to the US. No? I think a lot of them would want to come home.
As to the trend that we've seen during the pandemic years of staying in a condo to work, is that something that's continuing where your real estate is located? Do you have that kind of a market where they rent space for about 6 months, they stay and they work there, and then move to another place in the next 6 months and stay and work there?
Okay,
is that still very much around post-pandemic?
Well, okay, even right now, so we're like two years out of the pandemic now. Okay, what happens now? And I think it's happening.
They call it workation.
Yeah. So we get that, no, people, but usually they go there. It's not really a long term. They go to our properties during the weekdays, and then that's where they work now. So that's quite rampant. Although what I see right now, no, and even in our company, no, we haven't gotten back to the 5-day work week. No? So we're 3 days work from the office, 2 days work from home. Why are we doing that? During the pandemic, I remember, during the pandemic, we couldn't physically meet. No? So we were introduced to Teams and Zoom. Back then, no, I've never met my village managers in one meeting. Well, Landco, we're situated from Cabanatuan to Zamboanga. So I have like over a dozen village managers. So I've never met them in one meeting. Now, even if I could afford to bring them all in one meeting, that would be so wasteful. And we didn't have the room to house everybody. So the first time I was able to meet my village managers in one meeting was during the pandemic. And that kind of opened my eyes that if you ran your company based on results, no, it's still very productive. No? So the productivity never really went down during the pandemic. Again, I mentioned that 2021 was our best year ever during that year, and we were kind of semi-lockdown back then. No? So I think a lot of companies are hybrid. No? And I think moving forward, there will be a hybrid working situation. And the good thing that the pandemic showed us is that you could be productive anywhere you are. So you could be by the beach, no? You could be in the mountains and do your work, no, so long as you have connectivity. And I think that's what primed up the sales of our condos, because moving forward, like just a couple of months ago, no, I was meeting one of the clients. He was in Punta Fuego. No? We were meeting via Zoom. It was really a business meeting. No? So you could be productive where you are. And I think that benefits, Landco being a leisure developer, that you could be wherever you are and be productive at the same time. So it really magnifies the work-life balance. So I think that's where the industry is headed.
Before you go, you've mentioned visiting 71 countries, including Antarctica.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most ideal holiday or maybe getaway for somebody who's needing a vacation or some time off?
Okay. So, Ms. Cathy, my honest answer, first and foremost, is that who are you with? I think that determines how much fun you're going to have. I go around with my wife, and I think, even if we stayed at home, I'm happy. But again, who are you with? Now, in terms of what's a nice vacation, I think Filipinos, no, because it's warm all year round here. No, we like the cold. I love Scandinavia. Go back there. Iceland in particular. No, it's really nice. So yeah, that would be ideal for me. Yeah.
But when you do meet a foreign tourist or maybe somebody overseas, what do you say about the Philippines?
Well, firstly, Boracay, no, that is world class. Something I'm very proud of. Siargao also, no, because of the vibe. Again, it's like a young valley. Well, Palawan's beautiful, no? Bohol's beautiful. So there are a lot of places here. No? If they wanted like a nice nightlife with a cooler weather, Baguio's fantastic. So we have a lot of places here. Yeah.
Well, all the best for your developments.
Oh, thank
Things
you,
are
Ms.
looking
Cathy.
up. And
Thank
it's
you, Ms.
not
Cathy.
even 2025.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Ms.
Appreciate the
Cathy.
time.
Mhm.
Well, catch us again next Thursday at 9 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I'm Cathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.